As world leaders at the G20 summit focused on the Paris attacks, the fact they met in Turkey only underscored the country's influence. It is the only Muslim-majority country that is a member of NATO, and its border with Syria has become a pathway into the war-torn country.
We have about 30,000 foreign fighters from more than 90 different countries. The greatest majority of them came through Turkey.
Right. Analysts say Turkey has since worked to seal its borders. What led to its situation is complex. Turkey was once an ally of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad, but those ties were broken after Syria's assault on citizen protesters in 2011. As Syria spiraled into a civil war, General Wesley Clark, a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, says ISIL served a purpose for Turkey and that it countered Iran's influence in Syria.
Not saying they created ISIS, they didn't, but they were one of a number of countries that fed weapons into the region and sought to mobilize extremist fighters to go against Iranian influence. And it was an emergence of a Frankenstein.
And that Frankenstein now haunts Turkey. Last month, Turkey suffered its worst terrorist attack in its modern history. About 100 people were killed in 2 bombings in Ankara. ISIL was quickly suspected. And the threat from ISIL, says one analyst, is a big reason Turkey let the U.S. use its Incirlik air base in July to launch strikes against ISIL inside Syria.
There's always a bargain in play for the Turks, and so the more access that Turkey grants the United States and other coalition partners through its bases in Turkey, like Incirlik, then it can try to extract other concessions in other arenas.
Among the list of demands, she says, Turkey wants to keep a check on Kurdish rebels it opposes. Some of those factions have become partners with the U.S. in fighting ISIL. But in the wake of the Paris attack, pressure is building on Turkey to do more. And it was evident at the most recent presidential debate among Democratic candidates.
In particular, Turkey and the Gulf nations have got to make up their minds. Are they going to stand with us against this kind of jihadi radicalism or not?
Turkey has other demands from the West, namely creating a safe zone along the Turkish border for refugees. Turkey is now providing shelter for nearly 2 million refugees, while others are finding their way into Europe through Turkey. All of it comes as the battlefield in Syria grows more crowded and complex. Adding to the challenge for Turkey is the entrance of Russia, which is at odds with Turkey over Syria's president. And that leaves a big question over what's next. Mary Snow, Al Jazeera.